I don't know about tomorrow. I just live from day to day. I don't borrow from its sunshine, for its skies may turn to gray. I don't worry o'er the future, for I know what Jesus said. And today I'll walk beside him, for he knows what is ahead. Many things about tomorrow.
Hi, welcome back and thank you for joining me for another chapter in the Prophecies of the Messiah, Part 8, Joseph, From Slave to Governor. The foundational scripture for this video is Genesis chapters 39 to 45. Please remember that this is a quick summary. When you read the passages, you will see a lot of repetition. This is because these are eyewitness diaries of people who wrote everything as it took place. You may also pick up things that I didn't mention because there isn't enough time to talk about them all. Please read the text for yourself. If you have a Strong's Concordance with a Hebrew and Chaldee dictionary, I will add reference numbers to definitions of words, particularly when it comes to the names of the children. Okay, here we go. Joseph became a slave in Egypt in Potiphar's household, and the Lord was with him. So everything that Joseph did was profitable, so in time he was made a butler over all the affairs of Potiphar's household. Genesis 39, 1-6. Joseph was a strong man and easy on the eyes, some might say, and Potiphar's wife was attracted to him. She demanded that he sleep with her, but Joseph refused because he understood that he was entrusted with all the affairs of the household, and that meant that he was trusted with the members of his family, including his wife. She continued to pressure him, but he ran from her, leaving the coat that she grabbed in her hand. She showed it to all the men of the household and blamed the Hebrew for making a mockery of the Egyptians, then showed it to Potiphar when he came home. She said that Joseph attacked her, but she managed to get the evidence before fleeing. So Potiphar took him to the king's prison, where the Lord continued to bless him even there. Joseph was promoted to warden status, and the warden didn't supervise him since everything he did brought a profit. Genesis 39, 7-23. Joseph served a 14-year prison sentence for a crime that he didn't commit. The approximate dating was from about 1729 BC to 1715 BC. One day, Joseph noticed that the butler was sad because of a dream, so he offered to interpret the dream by the knowledge of God. The butler said that he saw 3 branches, each had budded and bloomed with grapes. He pressed the juice of the grapes into a cup and placed it in Pharaoh's hand. Joseph responded that each branch represented 3 days, and the butler would be restored as Pharaoh's chief butler as he was before. Joseph also asked that the butler remember him when he was restored, because he was stolen from his Hebrew family and was also serving a prison sentence for a crime he did not commit. The chief baker also asked Joseph for the interpretation of his dream. He had 3 baskets on his head, and the top basket had baked meats prepared for Pharaoh. The birds were eating from the top basket. Joseph said that the 3 baskets meant 3 days, and that Pharaoh would behead him. The birds would come and eat from his body, from his dead body. So in 3 days' time, the butler was restored to his position, and the baker was beheaded and hung on a tree. Both dreams came true, but the butler said nothing about it for 2 years. And then Pharaoh had 2 dreams of his own. Genesis 40. 2 years later, the Pharaoh was standing by a river and dreamed that 7 fat cows came out of it and ate in a meadow. In the same dream, 7 skinny malnourished cows came out of the river and ate the fat ones. He had a second dream about 7 ears of corn that were fat. Then 7 thin ears of corn devoured the fat ears of corn. Pharaoh sought an interpretation of these dreams from the wise men and magicians, but they could not provide one. The chief butler told the Pharaoh about Joseph, who was then called for out of the dungeon. He was bathed, shaven, given new clothes, and brought to the Pharaoh, who then told him his dreams. Joseph said that the 7 fat cows and the 7 fat ears of corn represented Egypt's 7 years of plenty, and then the skinny cows and skinny ears of corn represented 7 years of famine following. He then suggested that a wise man be put in charge of gathering 1/5 of the harvests during the years of prosperity and establish food storage facilities in each city. After a brief moment of thought, Pharaoh made Joseph a second chariot, gave him the finest of linen, his ring, and caused the people to bow their knee to him as a governor. He handled all the affairs of Pharaoh's household and the nation, as well as gathering up 1/5 of the harvest to put in storage facilities that would need to be built. During the first 7 years, Joseph found a wife. He had 2 sons and named them Manasseh, causing to forget, number 45:19, and Ephraim, double fruit, number 669. He named them this because God caused him to be fruitful and to forget that he was a slave. When the 7 years of prosperity was over, the famine came, and Pharaoh sent the people of Egypt and all nations to Joseph to buy food from the storehouses. Genesis 41. Jacob sent 10 of his 11 children to Egypt to buy corn, and kept the youngest son, Benjamin, with him for fear that something might happen to him. When the 10 brothers came and bowed to Joseph, he remembered them and his dreams of them, but his brothers didn't know who he was. He accused them of being spies, but they said that they were there to buy food. They said that they were a total of 12, but one was dead, and the youngest was with their father in Canaan. Joseph threw them in prison for 3 days, and he overheard Reuben tell them that they should never have done evil to their brother, and that this was their punishment. Joseph wept, and after 3 days he let them free, but bound Simeon hand and foot, and told them to go back and get their youngest brother. He then ordered their donkeys to be filled with corn, and their money returned for their journey. When they stopped at an inn to feed the donkeys, one noticed the sacks of money that they had used to pay for the corn. They were afraid and returned to tell Jacob what happened. Simeon was retained, and they needed to return with Benjamin so that they would not be counted as spies. Jacob would not send him, and they ate all the corn that they had returned with. Genesis 42. When Jacob was going to send them back to Egypt to buy some more, Judah reminded him that Benjamin needed to return with them or they would not be seen. So Jacob told them to put together gift packages of herbs, honey, spices, myrrh, nuts, and almonds, with double the money to buy the corn. They went back to Joseph's house, and he saw that they had Benjamin with him. So he sent the steward to bring them to his house to dine with him at noon. They told the steward that they were afraid because of the extra sacks of money that were sent back with the corn they bought, and they returned it with money to buy more. The steward told them they didn't need to be afraid and brought out Simeon. Their feet were washed, the donkeys were fed, and they presented the gift pack to Joseph and bowed to him. He asked how their father was and if he was alive and in good health. Upon seeing Benjamin, he found a private room to weep. The steward set a table for the brothers and a separate table for Joseph to eat, because the Egyptians did not eat with the Hebrews. When the table was set from the firstborn to the youngest in order, the brothers couldn't figure out how he knew to set it up like that. Benjamin was given 5 times more to eat than the rest. They ate, drank, and were happy to be there. Genesis 43. Joseph ordered the brothers' sacks filled with food along with their money and one of Joseph's silver cups in one of the sacks. In the morning they were sent away. When they were out of the city, Joseph sent the steward to search their sacks for the missing cup. When they were overtaken, the brothers questioned why they would have stolen the silver cup, because they had already returned the extra sacks of money the first time. They allowed the steward to search the sacks, and the cup was found in Benjamin's possession. When they returned to give back the cup, Joseph told them that Benjamin would become his servant, but Judah stepped up and told him that they could not return without Benjamin, or their father would die of grief. Judah offered himself to be a slave instead of Benjamin. Genesis 44. Joseph ordered that everyone leave him, and he wept so loud that the household of Pharaoh heard it. He told his brothers to come close, and he told them that he was Joseph, and that 5 more years of famine was appointed on the earth. He told them not to be angry with themselves that they sold him into slavery, because God made that happen in order to deliver them from starvation. He told them that he was the governor of Egypt and of the household of Pharaoh, and that they were to return to tell Jacob of all they saw. They were to return to live in the land of Goshen near him, with all their family, their flocks, and everything they had. When they returned and told Jacob that Joseph was alive and that he was the governor of Egypt, he didn't believe it until he saw the wagons that were sent to carry him and his family. He then agreed to go to Egypt to see Joseph before he died. Genesis 45. We have seen that both Sarah and Rebekah were barren, and that God opened their wombs to conceive, to give birth to the patriarchs of Israel. Rachel was barren as well, which seems to be a sign. When God opened the womb in each case, greatness was the result. Though Joseph was sold into slavery as a hateful thing done by his brothers, God planned Joseph to be in the right position to save his family from certain death by a 7-year famine. What does God have planned for you? Thank you.
When life keeps falling and wonder where